Thank you. Number one, I just put the slides for this presentation up on our website, gilb.com. Download the slide. You can pick them up anytime you like. That would include a set of slides for Kai's talk, which he's constantly improving. And he may prefer to put up a better set afterwards, but you've got a sort of copy of his talk. Okay. Well, there's our wonderfully challenging title. So, Agile Business Change, not Agile IT Development. Right? Business change. We recently had a client in the UK, who will remain fairly anonymous, in June, and recently we were brought in by the IT people who were looking at Agile. But they said, you know, the whole company's going to go Agile. The top management's thinking of doing it. We're running the whole bank. And so that's good. And everybody's waiting around, like they think they're going to get fired, some of them. So they're really worried what's going to happen. There are all kinds of rumors floating out. It's quite chaotic, quite dramatic. Anyway, we went ahead and held some courses for the IT people about Agile. But just as we're about to start there, they said the top management has decided that they want to hear directly from you to them what this is all about. And by the way, they have under pressure to go Agile, to be seen to be doing something modern and great. But in fact, they are not quite sure what this Agile thing is, so they're not quite ready to announce the major revolution in the corporation that everybody's expecting. It's a very dodgy situation. So Kai and I got, not more than an hour with the CEO and his direct reports. Right? And we made a presentation. I've got a sanitized version where I'm going to show you approximately how what we said Agile for business change is and how we treated them. Okay, so that's the first part of this talk.
A quick interruption.
Yes. My microphone is fallen down. Is it something like there? Microphone on. Okay. Now, let me just check something. Yeah, okay. This is not after this. Okay. So I showed them a series of slides. Not least, I picked up a lot of slides from this wonderful fellow called David Rico. There's his website, david@rico.com. I've never actually met him personally, but he's written several books on Agile. And in particular, he's tried to understand the return on investment of doing Agile compared to other methods. On our website, we host a number of good people with good things to say, and David Rico is one. So if you go to our website and look for the downloads about various other authors, you'll find several papers and slides by David Rico, and you get a pretty good picture of what he's found about Agile. But he's very businesslike. You know, what does it cost to do it? What are the benefits? What's the return on investment? Okay. And there are some quite shocking things there. Like a lot of methods that people are pouring a lot of money into have very marginal returns, and so it's very dodgy business. And a lot of things people are not putting a lot of money into have huge returns on investment. What's the difference? Well, actually, there's some people out there selling the losers. Very good salesmanship. And the things that are winning and are great methods, nobody's out there selling them. They're practically free. That's why they have such a good return on investment. That's an interesting thing. We can look at the details of what he looks at. I should add that Rico is a little bit controversial. Not everybody likes what he does. Just give you fair and due warning. He even managed to insult a couple of very good friends of mine who are doing similar research. It can be a bit obnoxious, I expect, though I've never found him that way myself. But I must admit, I really like his stuff because he's so rich and deep and trying to get to the truth. And I haven't found anything offensive about what he's doing. So here's one slide: 14 pitfalls of Agile methods. I mean, let's say you're going to do Agile in the whole corporation. Well, it might be interesting to go through the pitfalls and ask, have we planned around these pitfalls? Are we ready to accept them? I mean, these are all the things that go wrong. So I'm confronting the executive group with all the pitfalls. I mean, they've heard all the good stuff. You've got to go Agile, and it's good stuff, and it's the newest thing, and with Lean and Kanban, it'll be even better, and on you go, right? So I said, no, here's the bad news. There are lots and lots of problems there. And I just let that sink in. Now what I'm trying to do, the series of slides you show, I'm trying to scare the pants off of the managers so they won't just dive in and do it and say, we've decided to go Agile. Okay? If they do it, I want them to be fully aware of the consequences. I want them to realize a message I give to them a little bit later. If you were to tackle everything on this set of slides, it would take a really good group of managers 10 years to change the culture in this direction. And you are not such a good group of managers. They have to have some prominent public figures to manage their own shop, so that we're perfectly well aware of what I say. They have some, new managers on board trying to sort out their own shop, but they were kind of a catastrophe organization public. So they weren't this fantastic set of managers who could tackle putting in Agile. So I say they probably take you lot 20 years and you'd screw it up anyway. So really, don't even think about it as sort of my message. But if you insist, be aware that there are long lists of problems and pitfalls. Of course, there's all these wonderful things that happen if you go Agile, if you do it right, if you persist. But most people don't do it right. They don't persist. They don't manage it well. So this is just in your dreams. This is really not going to happen. That's probably the basis you were sold on for doing Agile, is all these wonderful things that will happen. Okay. Now, again, still Rico, and what you have here, here's like Agile information system, Agile IT, i.e. Scrum, XP, and that lot. As you move up this chart here, notice you're talking about Agile organizational change. I mean, that's the subject of our lecture, isn't it? Right. And Agile acquisition and contracting. I have some friends here in London that have just tried to work out how to contract for Agile. Okay, they spent 2 years figuring out one lawyer, Susan Atkinson, one Scrum expert, Gabriella Benefield, and they've got a little website. Okay, I can tell you about it if you ask. But there's a very non-trivial notion how you contract for Agile, step by step, that don't pay for no benefit and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's a big deal in itself. We're working on figuring this out. And then Agile strategic planning. Strategic planning different from organizational change. Okay. And then there's the capability analysis, the program management. As you work your way down here, you're beginning to get into systems development, and finally, down to the Scrum, writing some programs and calling it Agile. Okay. So this is like the big picture of the total organization, which, by the way, has some Scrum and XP Agile IT stuff. Okay. And I'm trying to give them the big pictures. I think Rico's excellent bring out. I can't remember having seen such a good exposition as he's managed to bring out there. Okay, so this is the big picture. So behind every one of these, I'm sure, is a 3-day course on the subject. It's coaching and training and hard work and methods. There's nothing simple about it at all. So this is just a bigger picture of the same thing. Now, here's another slide, again, from friend Rico, with plenty of other people from which he sources it. But, okay. So some ideas about Agile, like, well, you're going to delegate to the lowest level. That's the big thing, delegation of power. Then you get all this long list of things, like customer communication and some detail of what we're talking about, the product visioning detail. This looks like a lot of top management practices, really, okay? And any one of these is very difficult. I mean, just communicating is a fantastic in itself. I guess that's what marketing people and PR people try to do. It's a whole trade unto itself. And people aren't very good at it, in my view, but they try to be good and pay professionals to do it. Product visioning, what the hell is that? Okay. Anyway, I didn't spend a lot of time on this. I just said all of these things are arguably part of this Agile organization. All of them are major disciplines they're going to have to master and either hire or train people who know what they're doing. Find the right method. So there's, again, this is this non-trivial picture of 10 years of hard, focused work to build an Agile organization, which they're not going to be able to do. And I'm pretty sure one of their problems is just managing one big IT project, which the bank lives and dies by. They're totally hopeless at doing. How are they going to manage this whole corporate Agile transition?
not a snowflake's chance in hell. But I'm trying to, break it to them gently. Okay. So all this list of stuff to worry about. And, every one of them is let's just say for fun of it, every one of them is a 1 to 10 million quid investment. Another way of thinking about, how would you program this and plan it to get it to happen. These are non-trivial. Now, I suggest for them an agile policy, and that is they have actually a balanced scorecard, and I'm assuming people here know what a balanced scorecard is. Yeah. Actually, if you think about it, why balanced? Because in the beginning, it was all about accounting and money, and it was unbalanced. And the thing that generates the money are the good organization and the good products and the qualities. So somebody said, we need to get that in the scorecard, so we are dealing with not just the result of them, the money, but the things that generate the money themselves. Although, in my view, the balanced scorecard was a failure because it allowed people to try to balance with unquantified, unclear things. They would just say better flexibility. Real large, like a real large bank organization in the States. I've got the example from them. In fact, there's a set of slides I have on the website called Balanced Scorecard, What's Wrong with It. And you'll find the examples from the bank in the United States where they had a lot of what we call management bullshit things, like higher flexibility, and that's it. Now, the other stuff on the other side of the scorecard are very concrete, 20% increase in volume of sales per year. So that it really isn't balanced yet because the other things have got no clear definition. It's the same management BS that led to people saying we need to balance the scorecard. And they never balanced it, in my opinion. And there are some interesting examples. In the set of slides, you'll find an insurance company in Britain which has brilliantly understood how to get the balance and how to quantify those other things. So we do have some positive examples in the set of slides on the website there. Anyway, they have a balanced scorecard, and I'm trying to think we'll maybe get a look at it. I was none too impressed. They had the usual problems. They had a set of top management objectives, and I took one look at them and said, those aren't management objectives, those are strategies for getting to your objectives. You haven't even got a statement of your objectives. Now I'm sitting right in front of the CEO who's personally done the planning. So I'm endangering my trust or credibility as a consultant. But the CEO was a pretty good chap, and he said, I agree with you. These are strategies, these are not objectives. I didn't have much time to plan it yet. I was planning to do better. Okay. But I mean, I really did call a spade and said, this is really not objectives, but you're calling, these were published publicly on their website. They've gone that far with non-objectives. Okay. So basically I said your scorecard is kind of silly because you haven't even defined your major objectives in a clear way. But as a placeholder, you've got all your technical strategies you think will get you to the undefined objectives. This is just silly. This is not good management. And interestingly enough, the CEO, several of the directors agreed. They were almost happy to hear somebody said it in public, the emperor has no clothes kind of situation. Anyway, so my advice to them is, look, let's simplify Agile. What we need is real improvement to the bank. I mean, next week and every week, something gets better. The productivity of your staff, the ability to train new people, the service level. You've got to identify your critical parameters, and you've got to deliver changes to those parameters. In our kit of thinking, we spend maximum 1 week planning anything, including a total organizational change. We call our project Startup Week. On Monday, we define the top 10 most critical things that have to be done and to get the management to agree to those. The second week, we start delivering at least one of those, at least a little bit, for real, measurable to the organization. And each week and every week thereafter, we deliver. No excuses. No big, gigantic projects. It's going to take 2 or 3 years, spend 30 million quid and get nowhere, which they just happen to have started, called the transformation project. Okay. They said, look, really, I mean, if it had been up to us, I'd say, dump that big project you've just funded entirely to save the world. Why don't you just focus fanatically on early, meaning next week and every week. Incremental means everything gets better. Delivery means it comes to the real organization, real improvement on that agenda of the top 10 things you decided you wanted to do. It's a pretty simple message. I mean, that's Agile at its best. Okay? And I'm just being a little bit political, as defined in your balanced scorecard. Although the next slide, I tear apart the scorecard. And here's my little message to their big transformation project that's going to shape the world. Do not allow long, large funding projects to exist. I'm directly attacking the big project that I've already started. We've met and worked with the project manager. Kai's worked with him to quantify his goals, because they've never been quantified before for the big project. But we're basically saying, look, if you dump the whole thing, I don't think you'd lose a whole lot. Okay? But if you turn your attention to getting results out of the critical kind, by some means, I mean, turn this energy into getting results out. Because right now, there's this big bang mentality. We're going to do this investment and spend this money. Latest I heard, a major, well-known consultancy organization is in there helping them spend all their money for no purpose whatsoever. And they're wasting their time here. This will be, a failed project. Okay, we can predict it. And I'm saying, if you really want to go Agile, you will focus on getting the results out the door each week and next week. So your people prove they can actually create real value for their organization. They need it now. They needed it 2 years ago. They don't need to wait 2 years to find out this big bang thing is going to do nothing for them except cost a lot of money and time. Here's a definition of Agile. First, frequent. For me, that's every week. If you prefer every month, I don't care. Early. That means the second week of the project, you actually produce real results. I'm not kidding. There are lots of our clients who do exactly that. Okay? It's the mentality. We'll spend a week doing a feasibility study, but the second week we will start proving we can deliver results. We don't need a 6-month or 2-year feasibility study, followed by building a system for 2 or 3 years, none of which delivers any value to the organization whatsoever. We don't need that. We know what happens. Generally, failure. Okay. Measurable results means you can measure that productivity is going up. Service levels are going up. It's just a fact. It's measurable. It may just be in certain corners of the bank, but then it will spread when it's successful. What we're doing is saying, you guys have to figure out how to make that change real and make it happen. It means you have to do systems thinking. You have to think about the culture, not least of the bank. Its habits, its motivations, its real people. And then maybe there's some programming and machines and stuff to support it. Okay, but the Agilistas we know from Scrum and XP, the center of the world is their algorithm and writing code. And they're very unconcerned about culture, people, motivation. That just isn't on the agenda. And of course, they're doomed to fail. They have a 19% total failure rate at the moment, Scrum people. That was announced by Jeff Sutherland, who invented Scrum, last week on Wednesday in Warsaw, the conference I was at. I think I have a picture of it. The idea locked in. Locked in means you get those results, and they're locked in the sense that you never go backwards. You can only go forward. The worst thing that can happen is you do a trial to get some improvement, and nothing happens because your great idea has failed. Well, good thing we found out on a small scale, cheaply, that great idea doesn't work. Right now, the big strategy, they have some ideas which are not going to work, but they're not going to learn it for 2 or 3 years, as with the big empowerment, or the transformation projects, what they call it. They're not going to learn that. They're going to be in complete ignorance for years, happily believing that the miracle will happen. Okay, but it won't. Okay. Now, empowerment to focus on the results means that the top management goes to their directors and their staff and said, look, here are the results we want. They're quantified. They're on one page. Here you go. Do anything you like as long as it's legal. I don't care what strategy you use. I don't care whether you do something called Agile or not. I don't care whether you use white magic or purple magic or psychological tricks. I couldn't care less. But if you get those results, that's what we need. That's what we decided we need. That's empowerment. Okay. Jack Welch of General Electric had a very nice way of saying it. He said, I give clear objectives to my staff, and then I let them get on with delivering them. One of our problems is unclear objectives are the norm for management. Okay. And in other words, nice sounding words like highly agile, adaptive, highly productive organizations, that's called, there's a management bullshit generator on the web. You can get all those words automatically from a web program. Okay. Now, so empowerment means it's the results that count, not the means. Agile is a means. Agile is a process. It's a set of processes. But it's not the point. If you could have great business results without anything agile, or you could have everything agile but no great business results, what do you choose? Well, the answer should be obvious. At least in public, you wouldn't say, I want agile without any great business results, kind of silly. Okay, but the point is that opens up for saying, well, if agile works, we'll use it. But if it doesn't, we won't. And we won't just dive in and commit on a huge scale to doing agile because it's the popular latest things to do with a little bit of Lean and Kanban, mind you. Okay, we will try these things out, and if they produce a flow of results, they're good, we'll keep them. And if they don't produce a flow of results, they're bad, we will dump them. Find something else, whatever works. It's a pragmatic management. And empowerment also, that you need the power to decide what really works. Now, if management goes and said, we're going to do agile, they sort of dictated that that's what you're going to do even if it doesn't work. Okay, so they have to be very specific. I'm not dictating any method. I am giving you the freedom to find anything that delivers these results. Is that clear? I don't want to hear that you think we managers said do agile. We said do results. You got it? Okay? Because if management says we're going to go lean or do agile, people will. Okay? We were doing some work at Boeing about 3 or 4 years ago, and we were told in no uncertain terms that the chairman or the CEO of Boeing had decided that lean was in. So everybody was playing the game. Every project that wanted funding had the word lean in there. And they told us in no uncertain terms, please scatter the word lean liberally throughout your slides so we can get funding for having you to come and talk to us. And now, when I actually analyzed the chairman's speeches, found out what he wanted, and I quoted him, and I said, and this is a lean method. Now, all of our methods are lean anyway, so this is difficult. It's natural, but we had to make the point explicitly so that they felt comfortable, like, I guess Tom and Kai aren't violating what our chairman wants, whatever the hell it is. Okay, so that's playing the game. Okay, we got funded. We did meet. Yeah, but we always do. Now, we need to find out what really works and what does not, and we need to do it based on facts. In other words, evidence-based management. You know, everybody has beliefs that things will work, but sometimes you try them out and they don't. They don't, we have to unceremoniously say, well, that didn't work. Goodbye. And no excuses like, but the management wants us to go lean and this is lean. Said it doesn't work. And the management has told us that they don't want us to persist with stuff that doesn't work. They want the results, so find something else. But it's not called lean. I don't care. If it works, it's good. Management made that clear. Didn't you get the message? The management has to, point people in the right direction, give them the right empowerment. We also need to learn fast what works. That means next week and every week. Okay? Every theory. This is the essence of science, is testing hypotheses to see if they work or not. Okay? And the faster you can learn, the better, and the faster you can change to adapt to that learning, the better. That, in a sense, is the essence of the Agile that has as the one common thread the idea of a plan, do, study, act cycle of Deming, like that, right? The feedback cycle. So learn fast, change fast, fail fast if you like, but that's okay. Okay. We need to also be responsive to external stakeholder needs. Suddenly, the government comes along and dictates to this bank what they're going to do, whether they like it or not. And if you're in the middle of a 2-year transformation project that in 3 years will maybe produce some results, the government come and screw everything up. Agile means responsive to unexpected rapid change. Anything that does that is agile, in that sense of the word. It enables you to say, oh dear, if you say, oh dear, the 2-year program is totally wasted because the new government regulation, well, that's not agile. You've locked yourself into a heavy investment which maybe won't work anyway, but certainly won't work under the changed conditions. So we have to keep our monitoring senses out there and saying what's happening with various stakeholders and their needs, the market, and things like that. And then we need to integrate that into, for example, change of the long-term objectives. It's one thing that might happen because of change of the external circumstances. And in fact, what worked yesterday very well for our then objectives may not work tomorrow for the new objectives. And Agile has to sense that and deal with it immediately. There are two, aside from the responsibility assignment for results, there are two other things that are pretty important to me to do Agile. And I found that people are not trained in these. One of them is the idea of decomposing all the things you're going to do in the long term to a series of small things that can be implemented in any sequence that gives you good value for money. I call that decomposition by value, or in fact, the decomposition to efficient, the implementable strategy. Efficient means high value cost. So these big bang projects, they just put all the good and the bad together for a few years and spend all the money on it and then get nothing. So there's a concept called decomposition by value. Now it turns out we can all decompose, work breakdown structures and stuff like that. But can you decompose so that every component is independently implementable if you decide it has very high value and you'd like to have it now? Or are you dependent on a whole lot of other things, platforms and foundations being built before you can get any benefit out of the system? Because most people, in fact, are in that area there. Okay. So decomposition means I can cherry pick the stuff that will give me value next week, and I can implement it now, next week, without waiting for big basic foundational investments to happen. I can put it on the present system, the present way of organizing things. And my great new system will emerge as a series of changes and improvements to my old awful system that I'm trying to get rid of. One of the big mistakes we make is saying the old system is awful, the old organization is awful, therefore we'll build the new great one. Tom Peters has forever documented that never works, by the way. I'll give you one source here. He very clearly documented that what seems to work is a series of evolutionary changes in the right direction. Okay. But this skill of how do you decompose by value as opposed to by components that could be constructed. Now, I have 20 principles of how to do it and papers on it, so look for decomposition on my website. I've simplified the method to 1-1-1-1-1-1 method just for fun. That means in 1 week, we'll deliver at least 1% improvement towards our goal of using one strategy for one stakeholder, etc. Okay, I'm just trying to, this can be a simple, popular paradigm for how to decompose by value, long story short. You'll find papers and slides on that. In fact, we did this on a large scale at the U.S. Department of Defense on an IT system that was Krasinski, the Army system. The second, so that's one prerequisite for doing Agile, and people aren't trained to do it and they can't do it, and they'll even defeat this mentality. Say, this can't be broken down. You have to do this for 6 months or 2 years to do anything. And these are smart people, and they've been around for a while. They'll stare you in the face, and they're absolutely sure they're right. And they are, in my experience, always totally wrong. And within an hour, I can get them to admit it. All I have to do is take something they say cannot be broken down, decomposed, and do it right in front of them. Say, name something you think cannot be broken down so I can deliver value next week. And they'll name something. I said, how much money do you want to bet? You know, what have you got in your pocket? I usually grab my little bankroll and throw it on the table, and only 15 quid. But sometimes I have 100 or 200 quid there and said, I'm putting my money on the table. We'll make a bet in front of everybody else here. You're saying it cannot be decomposed. I'm saying it can, and you will agree with me within the hour, maybe 5 minutes. But nobody puts their own money down. They say, well, let's just do this, Tom. You know, they have a sneaking suspicion they might lose their money. They know what I'm doing. But in using my 20 principles of decomposition, which I built up over decades of practice of doing it just intuitively and common sense, so I have methods for teaching people to decompose, which is really fun. Now, the second prerequisite is the ability to quantify qualitative things. I know you know how to quantify all the accounting stuff, the money. Okay, that's what they teach at business school. They teach to accountants and being counters. I know you know how to quantify performance increases, like going faster, storing more, okay, doing more. But you know, the moment we hit these ilities, like agility, scaling up, better customer service, user friendliness for the system or product, people are like, Well, I know how to say the magic management bullshit words, better usability, better agility for the organization. But if you ask me how to quantify it, to put a number on it, I don't know. I said, well, I'll teach you. Now, given the time limitation here, I'll tell you the simplest way to find out how to quantify those things is to Google them. Take anything you like management agility. Put the word metrics after it. You can do it right now on your iPhone as I speak. Take anything you'd like to quantify of management stuff. Put the word metrics after it. Put it into Google, press the button. I'll tell you what will happen. You'll get 20 million plus or minus 8 million hits. And on the first page of 10 things, you'll find at least 5 great attempts to do it, which will guide you into doing it. Okay? In other words, anything a manager can think of is valuable. It turns out thousands of other managers have been thinking about, and a few hundred of them have written up what they've done, and they've done it. Everything you can imagine that management, I did several exercises on it in the other room earlier today. People tried throwing things out, 5 or 6, they threw at me like the wow factor was one, and stuff like that. And Tom Peters wrote a book on that, actually. And but everything they threw at me, we Googled it, and there were perfectly good answers right on the surface. Okay? So this is not, people have a little barrier here. They believe it's qualitative, it's soft. It isn't like money, which we've learned to count. I said, your problem is you haven't learned to quantify soft stuff. Now, some words from the Lord. Lord Kelvin, 1883. If you think you know something about a subject, try and put a number on it. Try and measure it. If you can, maybe you know something about the subject. But if you cannot quantify it and measure it, you ought to admit to yourself that your knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. So it's faith in the Lord, it's guided my life, it's guided everything I do in management and technology. If people are saying, oh, you can improve this and this is great, and I have a thing called 12 tough questions, and it begins with, you say that will improve, give me a number. Oh, I can't. Why not? Well, because it's obvious, or there are all kinds of strange excuses, or it can't be quantified. I said, well, you said it's improved. How could you know that if you haven't done it? Mumble, 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 bullshit. And finally, they're exposed to the charlatans they are, with sales talk and no facts and no knowledge of what they're doing. Their knowledge is of a meager and unsatisfactory kind. I try to give my 12 tough questions to top managers. I had them on back of a little business card once. And I said, next meeting you go into where some techies are trying to bullshit you on big investments, just start asking these 12 tough questions. They're very innocent, like, that's very interesting, can you give me a number for that? And they can't. Okay. We got at least one director fired at Nokia just because he failed to answer those questions from 2 technical directors on the city. It's enough to get a director fired. But, they imagined that he knew what he was talking about. The moment they put him to the 12 tough questions test, he totally failed. And they sent him to Siberia, actually. Yeah. So what we found is everything that is essential for managers and techies can be quantified. Especially all the soft or qualitative stuff can be quantified. And if you doubt it, Google it before you embarrass yourself in public by saying it is soft and cannot be quantified. Okay, then you might get the balanced scorecard might get balanced. You balanced it by listing the qualitative things that you need to get a hold of. Let me just keep in mind. Oh, that's a very robust iPhone. It still works. Okay. Okay. So I've got some advice for the managers. I've got an Agile policy for them that basically says, have clear quantified objectives and let people start delivering the value and decompose. So I suggest they agree to the policy. Then they adopt an initial set of quantified objectives. In fact, when our time was up after the hour, they said, oh, we've got all these other meetings planned. We'd really like to spend the rest of the day with you. They squeezed in an extra half an hour just to talk about that. And then they found a director who was in charge of this stuff, and we spent the rest of the afternoon with them. They told them to come and start quantifying. They wanted to do it right away. Sensible top managers loved the idea of quantifying the top-level results. It's just they've had this barrier. Nobody's ever taught them they can quantify everything that's critical. You get it? And then they need to empower their managers and their result teams to go after the results. So here's the policy. We don't really have time to get into a lot of detail, but basically it's what I've been talking about. You need to be clear about how you're going to measure things, how to quantify them. You need to be clear about your constraints, the minimum levels, the targets, the stuff you really want. There's an organized, disciplined way of doing this. And this quantified set of objectives has to be the primary way of running things. Okay? They're totally results-based. Wow, I won't try to go into detail on that. Here are, my friends, the 12 top questions. Nice way of winding down the talk. So here's the first question. Why isn't the improvement quantified? By the way, I just did a TEDx talk where we're just about to get the final cut in a day or two of it. And I ended my TED talk with the 12 top questions suitable for that. And I had a young lady came up immediately after. I want to start my new company using the 12 top questions. She was on our course for 2 days here. Okay, this is in Norway. And we have started planning for 12 top, her critical objectives. We showed them actually on the course for her startup company. Here's the second one. What is the degree of risk or uncertainty and why? Okay, I mean everything is uncertain, but the question is, if you're an expert, you know exactly how uncertain it is. If you're not an expert, it's going to work on the day of the problem. Okay, or you may know about the risk, but you're a salesman, you don't want to expose it for fear they'll say no. Even worse. Okay. Are you sure we'll get 30% increase, plus or minus 10? Okay. Sure means like, I have a very dramatic way of saying, can I cut off your arm if we don't? That, you know, like they're like, what did you say? That's very dramatic. I said, no, it's just a way of, I want to find out how sincere you are. Because if it's absolutely guaranteed, you would not fear your arm, your hand getting cut off, would you? There are nicer ways to say it, like you mind if we don't pay you if we don't get the result. Right now, this institution is pouring a lot of money into this well-known company in their transformation project, and I don't think they're going to get their money back if it doesn't work. I think this company is going to keep the money. That's like unethical. Actually, there's a second lecture going on here about ethics. I think it's unethical to take 30, 50 billion pounds for 2 years from a company who thinks they're going to get productivity, and when they don't get the productivity, you keep all the money. I think you ought to contract so that you only pay for value delivered. I call that no cure, no pay. That's the contracting method my friends are working on. There are some papers called No Cure, No Pay on the website. You have to look into it. I try to find out why is IT always failing? You know, like 50% of all projects, total failure, 40% partial failure. And I found the root cause is, it's like the Pavlovian dog problem. We pay people so well when they fail. And we're teaching them to fail is very lucrative. In fact, they even get the assignment of trying once more, so they get double pay, triple pay. What if we shut off the flow and said, we will pay you handsomely. You can earn twice as much as you normally do if you produce the results. We can say this when we're contracting out, we can say this to our employees. Okay. Gives them a huge bonus if the value is in fact delivered. But if you do not, well, if your employee will give you minimum starvation wages and the outside contractors will get nothing. What a dramatic change. Okay. So, now, where did you get that from? 30%. It's industry standard, everybody. No, a little bit more specific. Have you ever measured it? No. Do you know anybody who's measured it? No. What's your source? Well, I heard it at a conference, but I forgot who said it. This is like, you know, people have a lot of dodgy information, and it would not pass any reasonable test of scientific evidence for anything. And you're a fool if you listen to people on doing that. Now, here's another one. You're going to get great productivity, right, if you use our tool and do our method. Turns out that productivity is not something simple. It's actually a very tailored idea. So we work with Ericsson Sweden, to the base station people. And they have a tailored idea of productivity. And you'll find information on the details of this on our website again. But they had things like, one part of productivity was the lead time for delivery of their products. That was critical. Another was the predictability of the time to market. Another was whether the people delivered the qualities that were promised to the customer. Okay? So they had about, we used 2 weeks, Kai and I, to figure out, using their chief technical officer and other staff, their tailored definition of productivity. Their definition of productivity like nobody else in the universe, not even Ericsson 2 years earlier, Ericsson 5 years afterwards. Okay? Productivity is a very tailored thing to a business. Now, if you walk in with this general wonderful tool and say, you'll get better productivity if you use my gizmo or my method or Agile, but you don't even know what productivity they want, that's kind of outrageously arrogant. You know, no matter who you are, what you want, I'll give you productivity. So the first thing a humble salesman should do is say, what kind of productivity do you want? You tell me with numbers. I'll tell you if we've got any products that will give it, and if anybody's ever demonstrated to give. That would be a reasonable give and take sales procedure. Now they just walk in with all the buzzwords all over the place, how wonderful life will be, but they don't even know what you want, and that's not ethical, or at least it's stupid. Okay. Number 6, did we forget anything critical to survival? Now when you ask people, is it okay if we don't pay you, if we don't get the results? They say, well, no. I say, why not? Because we don't get control over certain critical things. Like what? Like the motivation of the staff. Well, you didn't mention that before. We just bought your product, everything was fine. Now you're telling us we have to worry about the motivation of the staff. Thank you very much. We forgot something critical to survival. There are ways of ferreting out of the people who actually have some experience what is necessary to make the thing work. But if it's a nasty little thing like you have to motivate your staff, and you're not good at it, it's easy to avoid that conversation. Just buy our gizmo and you'll get productivity. We'll sort out the rest later. And when you don't, this is like, I'm turning over to Kai in a few minutes, but this is like, well, none we sort out later, but when you don't motivate your staff and our whole system fails, we will accuse you of not done the obvious, like motivating your staff to do it. And yet we're never warned or told that's critical. Okay? So the point is you've got to make the sellers of ideas, internal and external, responsible for the results. And if they are expert, they will come clean with the necessary things, the unpleasant things that have to be done to make it work. Otherwise, they're not expert. Okay? How do you know it works that way? Did you do it before? It's amazing how many people are trying to sell you something they've never done it. They don't even know anybody who's done it. It's amazing what salesmen are put up to with nice slides for sales pitches. And another simple one, are you planning to do the most profitable things first? Most people are planning to do the basic foundational things, which they already have in place in the old system, first. So it's one step forward and one step backwards, and they're getting nowhere. I think you have to be where you are and start progressing forward by delivering value on the platform or basis of the awful old system you have today. That's been my experience for about 50 years. You must start from where you are and focus on incremental value being delivered. And if you do that 50 times or 100 times every week for a year or two, you will get the glorious new system you're looking for. You may even have swapped out platforms and underlying things on the way, hopefully transparently and visibly so nobody knows what's happening. It just gets better every day. Okay? And finally, the responsibility. If we fail, do you get paid? Do I get paid? Do you get dishonored? Who gets the blame? We're very bad at taking responsibility. Okay, so I'm finished with that. We're taking a little comfort break, we called it?
Yeah, comfort break.
Okay. So
2 minutes.
Take a break, get dressed, grab some tea, toilets to that direction.
Well, a little shorter than all of that.
Little shorter break than all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.